Hey everyone, my name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
And welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the biggest culture shocks when I moved out from the FLDS community or the polygamist group that I grew up in at age 18. So there were a lot, but we grew up in such a bubble that we were used to a certain way of living, and so there were when I moved out to the what we call the real world, it was very a lot of things that I just did not expect.
Yeah, and there was a lot
Yeah.
of things too that when you're from out there, you're taught are just like really bad. And
Mm.
so a lot of the shock comes from like adjusting to the idea that certain
It's
things
not bad.
aren't bad.
Yeah.
So one of the main ones is the way that they are required to dress. And because of how strict their dress was out there, like what
Mm-hmm.
was your normal dress? Not that you wore a dress. What was your normal attire
Yeah.
living out there?
Yeah. Well, for the man, it was required that you wore a buttoned-up shirt that was long sleeved, covered down to your wrist, and they wanted you to have a collar with buttons, and then typically either jeans or slacks, but you did have to have your legs covered all the way down to your ankles. So it was fully clothed.
And didn't you have to have them buttoned all the way up too?
Not necessarily. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure parents would have appreciated that.
The extra modesty
Yeah,
at the top.
exactly. But no, even the leaders of the church, if they weren't wearing a tie, they would leave the top button undone.
Okay, and when he says top, he means like the collar button, not like up
Right.
here, right?
Right.
Okay, just to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah, but generally the top button was left undone, but you did have to have a button-up shirt. Sometimes we would get really rebellious and wear a polo or something, but that was rare. And if you did do that, it was typically when you were gone to work, so you weren't around the house, and it was still long sleeves.
So what was it like getting used to I want to say regular. I guess I mean button-up shirts are regular clothes. So I guess
Yeah.
that's not the right way to put it. But like what was it like wearing shorts for the first time?
So a t-shirt and shorts for me, I don't think it was as weird for me as it was for some of the other people that moved out. I know that I have siblings that have moved out, and it took them a while to adjust and feel comfortable wearing a t-shirt or shorts, especially shorts. For some reason that just felt like you were half naked or something. It
Well,
was
half of your
after.
leg technically is naked when you wear shorts.
And
I'm just saying.
I did feel bad for everyone that saw me wear shorts for the first time because it was blinding. I mean, I was 18 years old. My legs had never seen sun, ever.
Yeah, a lot of people joke about that. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I have never, no, like never, like his entire life. Because even from like babies,
No babies.
babies are fully clothed too,
Yep.
from wrists and ankles. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was.
How long
Yeah.
did
So
it take? So it didn't take you as long, but how long did it take you to feel like fully comfortable wearing t-shirts, wearing?
after I got a tan. No. Yes, a little bit of that too, but it took a I don't know. I don't remember exactly how long, but it did for me. It didn't take too long. Maybe a few weeks where I didn't feel so weird anymore, and then after a few months, it just was the normal. It was the new norm. But yeah, growing up out there, we would see someone wearing a t-shirt or shorts, and we would just have instantly just think negatively of them because of the way we were raised. We thought, okay, that's a bad person.
Oh.
He's not clothed, so that's a bad person. That's just kind of the way it was.
And then along with that note, like one of the other main things we've talked about in other videos, as an 18-year-old boy who had to like sneak around to hold a girl's hand for the first time, um, what was
It's
that?
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
well, what was that like? Getting used to like, were you just like, woohoo! I can finally like hold a girl's
Yeah.
hand and date, or was it like a little bit uncomfortable at first?
So, the idea of being able to date and go out with girls and do all that wasn't weird at all. I was like, finally. finally I am free to do what I've always wanted to do, or at least since I was a teenager, take a girl on a date, or be able to, you know, spend some time with a girl and not get in trouble for it. Because that was one of, I think we've mentioned this before, that was one of the biggest no-nos. You do not spend time or get to know a girl, well, if you're, the opposite sex. You don't get to know the opposite sex without getting married first, and that was all arranged. So yeah, that was just not allowed. But the weird thing is when I saw parents telling their children after I moved out, parents telling their kids, "Hey, go on a date," or for example, one experience I had is a mom told her son, "Hey, are you doing anything this weekend? You should go find a girl and take her out on a date." And I was just like, parents, oh, what? Like
Encouraging this?
you're encouraging, yeah. So that was one of the huge shocks, is that parents were allowing that it was actually not only okay, but they were encouraging it. Yes. So that was just like a whoa moment for me, just because it was, my parents would never ever 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 think of such a thing from where I was from. Yeah.
Were there any shocks for like the actual like dating itself? Like, was it different than what you thought it would be, or was it? Does that question make
Yes,
sense?
I was very inexperienced, obviously, when it came to dating, and so when on my first couple of dates were, I didn't jump right into the regular dating and that type of thing necessarily. It was more just hanging out with girls for the
Getting used to being allowed to
yeah
talk
for
to
the first
them.
for the
It's
first
probably a good
while.
first step.
But it was definitely different. I don't think it was too uncomfortable for me though. I think I was a natural. Just jumped right in. No. No, but yeah, it was definitely a change though. Just being allowed to and being encouraged to. That was just whoa, mind blowing.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
last biggest shock that we've kind of talked about a lot is just how normal like education was for
Oh,
people that were
yeah.
in like the normal world, because he had been homeschooled. Homeschool is like a really loose term when it comes to the way
Mhm.
that they school out there. So I mean, you would have homeschool and time where you would do schooling with other children, but at
Right.
what age did that kind of stop?
So that it just depends. It just depends on the family, I guess. But for me, and we'll talk about this more in another video. But I went to work right away. I mean, 12 years old, I was out on the job sites.
Like full time construction
Yeah.
work.
So I mean, my parents encouraged us to learn and get an education. But that education came from reading a book or them teaching us in a classroom. So it was all homeschooling. So, it wasn't looked at as nearly as important as I found when I left. When
Yeah.
I left and I met people and realized that wow, this is people's lives revolve around getting an education and starting your life off with that education so that you can get a good job. In my mind, it was uh, you just go to do construction. You don't need an education to do that. You just go, you learn the trade, and you're good to go, and you get the best experience out there actually in the field. And so that when I came out and I just saw everyone, they just talked about education. I'm saving money. I'm starting as young as possible. I'm hopefully getting some college classes done while I'm still in high school and all these things. I'm like, whoa, this is actually like a big deal. So I jumped aboard and got an education.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
those are probably the three biggest culture shocks moving
Yeah.
out, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, those were some of the biggest. I mean, there were a lot. There were a lot, obviously, and I'm sure if someone mentioned something that jogged my memory, I would think, "Whoa, oh yeah, that's right. That was another huge one as well." So, those were some of the main ones, though.
Yeah, and if you have other questions about certain things that you think might have been a shock, please leave comments so that we can make videos on that
Yes.
and kind of tell you what his experiences were like in those other situations.
Yeah.
This is kind of just like a quick touch video, but if you want to hear more about his experiences leaving polygamy and growing up in polygamy, then like this video and subscribe to our channel. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
We'll talk to you soon.